Ferrari had a really bad week in the Dutch Grand Prix, but Ferrari put in their best effort for their home Grand Prix at Monza. They made bold choices in how they set up their cars and installed new engines in both of them, all at a track that was perfect for their car's unique strengths. It worked, and Ferrari settled for the best by 3rd and 4th in Italian Grand Prix. Ferrari tried its best to make those qualities as good as possible, hoping that its efforts might be enough to beat Red Bull. But unfortunately, it couldn't happen. What are the reasons, and where are they lacking? Let's check it out in this video. Max Verstappen had to put in a lot of effort to achieve his 10th consecutive win. The Ferrari drivers also made things difficult for Sergio Perez, but he managed to secure a Red Bull 1-2 finish. Ferrari's strong performance in qualifying and the race was a significant improvement compared to their poor performance at the previous Dutch Grand Prix, where they had the 6th fastest car, according to Sainz. This turnaround surprised other teams, as many had expected Ferrari to be more competitive this weekend. At Monza, Ferrari's car had some problems, but these issues were not as important there. Instead, their strong points, like high speed on straight sections and good performance in slow corners, stood out. This is similar to what happened in Baku when Charles Leclerc got the pole position. Just like in Azerbaijan, Red Bull had a better overall speed during the race, not just in qualifying. So in 2023, the team that usually wins was not as strong on Saturday in Monza, but they still believed they would do well in the race. However, Sainz did an amazing job in his qualifying lap this time, beating Max by just a tiny fraction of a second. Sainz did really well in the tricky parts of the track at the beginning of the lap to get ahead, and then he managed to hold on to the lead by the slimmest of margins in the faster sections, where Max's car was stronger. But why did Ferrari take a bold risk by making their car as lightweight as possible? It was to make it really fast on the straight parts of the racetrack. However, this meant that their drivers had to be extra careful when going around the corners because the car didn't have as much grip. Sainz mentioned that the car felt light to drive because it didn't have much downforce pushing it onto the track. He explained, "I think it's typical here in Monza. You have such a light feeling with a car that you never really are willing, in practice, to take the car to the absolute limit until really Q3 when it counts. To make the car work well, he had to get rid of any fear and trust that the car would stay on the track." Ferrari's car had a very thin rear wing, which gave them an advantage in terms of top speed over Red Bull, but it also meant they had to reduce the front downforce to keep the car balanced. This made it even more challenging to drive, especially in the high-speed right-hand corners at Monza. However, they took this risk because Monza is known for its traditional style of racing with slipstreaming, and overtaking is not easy. This was made even harder because the DRS had limited impact due to all the cars already having minimal downforce. So, having a good position on the track was crucial, and Sainz proved this in the early part of the race. Ferrari's car managed to stay in the lead for a longer time than most people expected, maybe even longer than it should have. Max needed to stay patient and wait for an opportunity. He noticed that Sainz's car was sliding more than his own, so he knew he had to be patient until the Ferrari's tires lost their grip. Eventually, Sainz made a mistake by locking up his brakes at the first chicane. Throughout this time, Max remained calm on the radio, expressing confidence that he would eventually get his chance. However, as the race went on, he started to worry about how fast the Ferrari was on the straight sections of the track. In the end, Max's patience paid off. Sainz's loss of grip, which Max had been waiting for, caused him to make a mistake at the first chicane. Verstappen seized the opportunity and overtook Sainz as they headed to the next chicane, and he never looked back. Ferrari had a tough decision to make during the race. They thought about coming into the pits early to change tires and try to get ahead of Max, but it was tricky because there were a lot of cars close together on the track. This would have made it hard to find an open space to use their fresh tires effectively. Plus, they were worried that if they pitted too soon, their tires might wear out quickly in the second part of the race. Max was also driving very fast, so it wouldn't have been easy to catch up to him. Earlier in the season, Ferrari had realized that their car performs better on tracks with less downforce, so keeping this in mind, and maybe because they wanted to impress their home crowd in a challenging season, they had decided a long time ago to make special updates for their car just for the Monza race. That is impressive! Ferrari's engineer Jacques Clear admitted this as he said, "But given that early in the season we recognized that lower downforce was suiting us better, It would have been silly for us, not just from a sentimental point of view and not just because the crowd is full of red, but it's clearly a circuit that is going to benefit us, and we knew that a few months ago. He added, doing a bespoke package for here was the right thing to do from a performance point of view, and of course, it comes with a Ferrari being on pole at Monza, and that is worth a huge amount to all of us as motivation to crowd. The tifosi, the drivers, there's nothing better. While some teams were reducing the size of their wings to increase speed, Ferrari took a unique approach at the Monza race. They used a special wing setup that provided even less downforce compared to others. On the other hand, Red Bull brought two different wing options to the race, both offering more downforce than Ferrari's setup. During the first practice session, they tested both wings. Despite Max being faster overall with the larger wing, Red Bull ultimately chose the smaller one. Additionally, Red Bull recognized that Ferrari had adopted an aggressive strategy, so they needed a sufficient level of downforce to either overtake Ferrari or defend against their attacks on the straights with DRS. At Monza, the Red Bull faced a speed challenge against Ferrari. Red Bull's car was slower on the straights by 7 km per hour compared to Ferrari when equipped with a smaller wing. If they had chosen the larger wing, the speed difference would have been even greater, estimated at 12 km per hour. This speed disadvantage could have made it even harder for Max to overtake during the early part of the race, potentially affecting his chances of catching up to Sainz. Max didn't reveal much about why Ferrari performed exceptionally well on low downforce tracks. Ferrari's goal for the season was to create a low-drag car, inspired by Red Bull's success in 2022. Sainz pointed out that it's not just about being fast on straights and handling corners, but also the surprising competitiveness of the Ferrari on certain corners, like the Parabolica at Monza, where Ferraris typically struggle. Max didn't want to share more, hinting at the significance of this knowledge. What truly matters is that Ferrari has identified the strengths and weaknesses of their car, offering hope for the future. Understanding what makes Red Bull so strong and others a struggle has been a challenge for all teams during this rule cycle. Ferrari believes it has answers to the latter, as evidenced by its performance at Monza. Jacques Clear expressed confidence in Ferrari's understanding of its car. Unlike earlier in the season when they couldn't explain poor performances, this newfound comprehension assures as they plan changes for the next year, based on genuine knowledge rather than guesswork or trial and error. However, this doesn't mean Ferrari will dominate every race in 2023. Their car's improvement won't necessarily translate into success on the twisty streets of Singapore. Ferrari expects a tougher weekend than they had at Zandvoort, not an easy one like at Monza. Learning from past experiences will help, but it won't guarantee immediate success. As the racing season goes on, Ferrari may not challenge Red Bull as fiercely as they did at Monza, but they can try to be the best after Red Bull before the season ends. What do you think about the performance of Ferrari in the upcoming race in Singapore? Share your views! Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for the next updates on F1 and check out more here.